May edition of our workshop series that we run every month. And May is Cybersecurity from Main Street Month. So that's something that we're trying to do to really promote education among local businesses. And today we're going to talk about what if they're already in the new reality of email security. So, um, and Linda, do you want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate your time and this is going to be a good one. This is a really interesting area that we live in right now, or world that we live in right now. So this is for everybody.
All right. And
Awesome.
we've got our technology partner, Petra, here. So, Lincoln, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to partner with y'all and really excited to talk to everyone on this call a little bit more about why business email compromise has become such a big problem. I think there's a lot of folks that don't have the awareness of how much this has really ticked up in the last few years. And I don't want to all be doom and gloom because there's going to be stuff we can actually do about it. But really, this is just going to be high level education about the current state of Microsoft attacks. So I'm going to jump into it here. Um, this just came out from the FBI. This is a report of fraudulent crimes, and they're sorted by the actual amount lost. So we see up your investment at the very top, right?
Sheesh, that's wild.
It's that's a lot. But right after investment, we see business email compromise is number 2 in actual dollar amount losses in 2025. So I want to let that sink in. This is $3 billion of damages. And this is really a good time to explain what these attacks look like, right? These are impersonation attacks, an attacker getting control of a Microsoft account. We'll talk about how they do that. But when they have this account, what they want to drive towards is financial fraud. They want fraudulent invoices going out to your best customers, your best partners, the folks that are most likely to engage with you and have that history of financial interaction. They want to ring them out for all that they're worth. And the way that they do that is by staying in the account long enough to get to those outcomes. We'll get into that more, but just to highlight this in context, right? Number 2, business email compromise with 3 billion. Way down the list here, if anyone's heard of ransomware, I know that was a big one with Colonial Pipeline. That is the attacks that are targeting the endpoint. So business email compromise targeting the user, ransomware targeting the endpoint or the device, right? Think of like the actual physical computer. But I highlight this because this does have a ton of awareness. These attacks do get pretty bad, so it needs that focus. But from a high level perspective, this truly business email compromise is where the lion's share of these are going to come from. And to
Yeah.
get more
And
specific, oh yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
I just wanted to chime in one thing. These are reported losses, so probably the actual losses are much higher. And for folks, we're in Massachusetts here, Arlington Schools nearby, they lost $500,000 through business email compromise about a little over a year ago. It was in the Boston Globe, widely reported. So it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, these are getting more and more common. And here's an insane stat for y'all. So 2024 to 2025, we saw a 389%
Yeesh.
increase. I just want to let that set in because that boggled my
Whoa.
mind, right? But it's becoming so much easier. We'll get into why it's becoming so much easier, but the numbers speak for themselves with us that this is going to be where attackers are getting in this year, and why we're excited to partner with y'all to put a stop to this and make sure we can get them quick and prevent those bad outcomes. But we saw in the last report, right? It's the number 1 most costly cyber attack. It's costing a lot of money. The average cost of these is 137K, right? This is 29% of business email
Sheesh.
compromises get to this end result of invoice fraud, where the average is 137K. So all that to say, if I was a better sales guy, I'm sure I could do some ROI math on that. But think about what that means for your environment, where if you're looking to really quickly mature your cybersecurity program, this is a really easy way that you can do that. But we see here because 90% of breaches are caused by phishing. meaning 9 out of 10 times where you're seeing something funny going on, one of your employees clicked on something, hey, this doesn't look right, that's going to be likely from phishing. And we're seeing this number go up as well. It's a vast majority of incidents actually starting with this. I know you've seen some, Anne. We
Oh,
had one
yes.
last week, right? It's
Mm.
getting more common, and we're definitely seeing that uptick on our side as well.
Yeah, and the
And
thing,
they're
like
slick.
two things, yeah, come to mind on this. We'll get into a lot more detail. We try to put as many defenses as possible in place to prevent bad stuff from getting in. A lot of employee security awareness training, because universally everybody thinks I would never click on a bad link, but unfortunately it happens. And then you got to, okay, what happens after somebody clicks on that? And another thing, this popped into my head just because Linda's been doing insurance reviews with people recently. People get the long questionnaires. We always advise clients to check their cyber insurance limits because a lot of times you might have a policy of a certain size and the business email compromise sublimit is a lot smaller. And folks need to be aware of that, manage your risk, but really understand it's your cybersecurity awareness, your insurance coverage, it's your security awareness training, it's defenses that you put in place, it's everything working together. And there's a lot of money in cybercrime, so there's a lot of money on the line. It's the world we live in.
Sure.
Yeah. And just to jump in a few more crazy stats, like you mentioned, those preventative measures, and you guys do an awesome job of those, let's say, left of boom controls, right? Those MFA, email gateway, all those tools that we can use to prevent these kind of attacks. But as we know in cybersecurity, nothing's 100%. User error is always going to be the biggest chink in the armor. So I say that in a sobering way, but also in a way that's, hey, there is things you can do to prevent these. And just to call out that, right, MFA used to be rock solid, right? And it's table stakes. You need MFA, full stop. But where it used to be that final gate, right? Now it's really a starting bell for a lot of attackers, where we'll see their toolkits have
That's
adapted to get around MFA. And again, MFA is still going to filter out a lot of those attacks, but we need to be prepared for what happens when a user puts in their credentials after clicking a phishing email. We'll look exactly what that looks like. Were you gonna add something there, Ann?
No, sorry, sneezing,
Oh,
allergy
oh,
season.
we're all
Sorry.
good. Um,
she
the
never
other
sneezes once. It's always 3 or 4 times.
they're all good. The other reason we see these attacks really surging is with AI being implemented into these toolkits. So we'll look at what this surge actually looks like on the ground and the functionality that attackers are using. But just keep in mind, these are the two main reasons we're seeing these toolkits get so much more effective and put those kind of numbers up in terms of being the vast majority of attacks. So how do attackers get around MFA? I get this question a lot. MFA had a big push a few years ago. Well, I say a few, but it definitely is becoming part of that table stakes security stack, and it is so important. But attackers are implementing ways to get around that in their toolkit. So what the current attack flow looks like is I, the user, I click on a phishing link, right? I saw one the other week that was employee and executive comp change Excel file, right? It's they're getting good with them, but some are just classics that always work. Those comp change Excels definitely do some heavy lifting on that front. But once the user clicks that phishing link, they're going to be taken into a screen that prompts them to put in their username and password, right? Once they do that, the attacker has access to those credentials. If they did not have MFA in place, that's when the attacker would have free reign of the account, meaning that identity being the perimeter, the attacker is inside the environment and rolling out the attack already. Fortunately, it sounds like most people on the call, they have MFA. That's awesome. The attacker has one more step here. They need to get your token. It's called your token, but your code that the authenticator app is sending you, and they need to get that token, feed it into Microsoft to kick off their session for Microsoft to view them as a valid user. So we'll get into the attack toolkits, but essentially what these look like is a fake Microsoft sign-in screen. So the attacker will have access to this. You put in your actual code, but then it goes to the attacker, and the attacker feeds that to Microsoft. So the short, non-technical answer for how they get around MFA is there's no special magic. The attacker is just pretending to be Microsoft to that end user and taking the code and manually passing that off to Microsoft. So Microsoft views them as that valid user. The other big question I get a lot is how do attackers bypass email security, right? That's another one of those left of boom, meaning before an incident type of controls. And super valid question. I think a lot of people even see us being email security, which we kind of are. Again, we're for those 9 out of 10 attacks that start with phishing, but we're not going to be on that preventative side as much. We're going to be on the reactive side. So it sounds like most folks have email security in place right now, or it's also called an email gateway, something that's going to be monitoring messages coming in, scanning links, and looking at the content of those. They're really good for reducing spam. They're really good for reducing those obvious attacks that come through. But there's a new kind of more insidious attacks that we're seeing, and they get through an email gateway. So we see here on this one, this is a more extreme example of this, and this is where someone, one of their trusted business partners, had their account compromised. Now, this attacker got into their partner's account and starts spraying emails to their business partners with the hope of compromising other accounts, right? It's called third-party compromise. They want to move laterally meaning side to side, and they want to find whoever you're doing business with so they can drive towards that invoice fraud again. It's going to be their ultimate goal. So that's an extreme example of why something would get around an email gateway, because in those cases, the system's just seeing that as a valid user, right? You have email correspondence with this person. They are replying in thread. They are matching the tone very well, thanks to AI,
Yeah.
of this user. And I see a lot of those, and I have to think to myself, I've been in security a while, but a lot of those I would click on because, again, you're reviewing that email address looking for funky stuff in the URL, like I'm sure everyone who does their security awareness training knows to do. But you're not going to see anything in that URL because the user has been compromised, and it's actually the attacker on behalf of that user. So,
Yeah. And
go ahead.
and this is a really tricky topic because we do get a lot of questions about that. People will say, "Well, how come the email security gateway didn't work?" Well, when you look at the real details around what's going on with email, valid user, no malicious file, no malicious link, gateway's not going to stop that. Then you get into impersonation protection if it's actually not coming from the user it says it's from, but that's not the case either. So you sort of have to peel the layers of the onion. And back to the MFA, Microsoft reported that 99.99% of their security incidents occur are associated with accounts that don't have multi-factor authentication. So like you're doomed if you don't have multi-factor authentication, but you need to do more. So it's
Yeah.
the wild world.
Yep. And I like that you said doing more because that's a good little segue. Side note, um, part of the partnership is that we were able to work in the functionality of really quickly doing this remediation work. So to take a step back, when we see these third-party compromises, the goal of the attacker is to compromise as many other accounts as they can. And we see here, in this case, they were looking for multiple users at that company. They already have all the context as to the client relationship or the partnership that they have across those companies. So why not send that to multiple users? It's very much less of a lift, especially with AI. You get a custom email out to everyone, and that's exactly what this attacker did here. They sent it to multiple users at the same account, and one of the things we're able to do as part of this partnership is go in and automatically remediate those, meaning we're pulling those phishing emails out of harm's way, so other users can't also be phished by those. So we're really excited to offer that functionality as part of this partnership, because that remediation step is super key to making sure that your business stays resilient and can move through these incidents while not having that back of the head. Hey, what if this happens again? Is there any other what's called persistence mechanisms or leftover malicious links or apps from the attacker? So I've mentioned a few times phishing toolkits, and I included this page for all the nerds on the call because it's
There's
pretty
some.
cool. Yeah, I won't go too in the weeds on this, but I want you guys to understand what this actually looks like, boots on the ground on the dark web, right? These are often toolkits they're going to Telegram to purchase, and they're not hard to operate. They're also not very expensive. So as we're looking at this, we see there's a bunch of different types. Everyone's got their flavor with different features. You can buy more robust or less robust tools. Um, but what they're including here, right? Let's just break this down. So Evil Proxy, this one's really popular, $400 a month, and they're looking at uh, right. You sign up through Telegram. They do full brand impersonation, and they can clone your website and spoof your brand assets again towards that reputational damage side. We see this reverse proxy. This is a way that they're spoofing their location to get around a lot of traditional detections that will catch that based on, oh, okay, so and so is coming from Russia, shut them down, right? A lot of
Yeah.
tools have had that kind of obvious workflow. And y'all did a great job of seeing where the market was going, at least from the attacker side of them spoofing their location and those detections not working so well anymore, right? So we'll get into how we differ. We use behavioral based, a lot more data, but that reverse proxy, when you see that, just means attackers spoofing their location. They're not going to be as obvious as just logging in from Russia anymore. But I call out Russia too, because we see a lot of attacker activity coming out of Russia these days. I threw in the average salary in Russia so y'all could understand what a big incentive there is for this malicious activity, right? It's getting that 137K wire fraud. That's a big deal. When you're making $10,000, that's 10 years of work, 13 years of
Oof.
work, almost 14.
Yeah.
That's a ton,
It's a
right?
huge incentive.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people will say, oh, okay, I'm a small business. The attackers are only targeting Chevron and Disney, right? And attackers are targeting them, but they know there's going to be a lot more uh, room to grow, let's say. There's going to be a
Yeah.
lot more low-hanging fruit in the SMB space, and Microsoft is by far the most targeted.
And those
Yeah. It's the
enterprise
most.
places have more budget to spend on cybersecurity as well. So smaller businesses lower budget for security, so they know that it's an easier target.
Yeah,
Yeah,
most of these are crimes of opportunity because that's a question we get a lot. It's like, oh, good thing I'm not a Fortune 500 company. Nobody's after me. But it costs nothing. These folks are paying $400 a month for their subscription. They don't have to know how to code. Send out a million emails. Doesn't cost anything. And one or two clicks, and that's a payday, big one.
yeah. And while we're definitely giving a little bit of a sob story to hackers here, So I'll give you two funny anecdotes with these guys because you called out that you don't have to be skilled anymore. You really don't. Uh, I saw on one of these, they actually have frequently asked questions. It's exactly the software that you would buy like on the security side with the website and
Yeah.
everything, but again for the hacker side. And one of the questions on there is, what happens when my subscription ends? Right? It's just the most basic kind of questions like
Oh, geez.
that.
Yeah.
Another funny one. So I was talking about how they spoof their location. We saw an attacker that was attacking someone, I want to say in Oxford, Massachusetts. Um, and so you probably see where this is going, but they go into their reverse proxy, they type in Oxford, and they think they have a great IP address that they just rented in Oxford. Turns out it's Oxford, England. So that attack got caught very quickly. But all that to say is
Yeah.
these are not the most technical hackers. It's not like
It's
you know
not
the TV.
Tom Cruise dropping down from the ceiling and all that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's scrappy, it's opportunistic, and it's really ramping up because of that,
Yeah.
and because that incentive is so high. Oh yeah, so this is a little bit more on these. You can see exactly what they're looking at. So this is a good segue into how is AI affecting business email compromises, and how it's playing into that surge that we're seeing. So the obvious use case here is once an attacker's gotten into your environment, again, they've breached that identity perimeter. I'm going to say that identity perimeter because think about a login screen. That's one page away. If you put in the right information, one page away from breaking that perimeter. If you have MFA, it just adds one more page to that perimeter, right? But that it's a very thin layer between attacker getting in and having access to all your data. And when they get access to that data, they're feeding that directly into an LLM. And they're not buying the nice enterprise version that keeps your data private, right? They're putting that into how do I craft the best phishing lures for those third party compromises. So they're going to be looking to spray your clients and partners again with these phishing lures generated by AI that are matching your tone. Um, so that's the obvious use case. The other one is less obvious. We talked a little bit about proxies earlier, and it's actually interesting that the residential proxies specifically that are used to change your location, that is built on the back of AI infrastructure, particularly around web scraping. So we'll talk about how you can rent out your IP address, and a lot of people might be doing that without actually knowing it.
Yeah.
But this AI infrastructure is built a lot of infrastructure for attackers to utilize that to get into your environment.
Yeah. A lot of those unsecured home networks, people think, well, it's just my home network, but somebody's getting that IP address for a domestic good IP address for an attack.
Yep. Yeah, great point. So just to dive a little deeper on residential proxies, um, I'm going to take a high level view here. I don't know how technical everyone is who's watching, but just tracking with this attack landscape. Residential proxies are the latest in this, but the attacks have been evolving towards this for a long time. So 3 years ago, we saw attackers just being quite transparent, or we could say maybe a little bit ham-fisted with how they were going about these attacks. They were logging in from Russia, China. We saw a lot, but these known hubs for bad actors, North Korea, right? But when there was less controls in place, we saw this being much more common because there was just less visibility. So these could often get around some of those let's say dumber detections or ones that weren't looking as in depth into these. But 2 years ago, we started seeing the rise of uh, general proxies, VPNs, things used where, hey, if the victim is based in the U.S., then I'm going to be based in the U.S. Right, and that was enough to get around a lot of stuff 2 years ago. Now we're seeing, particularly with residential proxies, This is today. This is the way that attackers are logging in from your zip code, from your town. They can get super fine grained with that because, as on the security side, there's a lot of um, visibility into that on the data side too, thanks to AI and particularly around web scraping. So a lot of websites, if you've ever seen the prove you're a human where you click the pictures, that is what AI wants to get around when they're going to, let's say, go cite some information that they gave you. When you're talking to them, you say, hey, give me a citation on that last little tidbit of information. They need to go do a web search and they need to look like a real user doing that web search. So here's how those residential proxies actually roll out. So this is a company called Bright Data. These are some of the fastest growing companies in the world right now. And essentially, it's a way to rent an IP address from users that they have. So attackers are loving this, and it lets them get hyper focused on, again, specific location, zip code, town that you are in. So this is where I pivot into, hey, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. We are focused only on this issue, and we're really excited to kick off this partnership because we feel like it's going to be really valuable in 2026 and beyond as these attacks continue to ramp up. And with all those kind of new attacker functionalities that they have built into their toolkits and their workflows, we want to match that on the security side, and we want to stay ahead of that even. So we are fully behavior based. We're not looking at those old location signals. We're looking at user behavior in Microsoft to identify anomalies and be able to drive really, really quick and accurate decisions. So old location based, it factored in a very, very low amount of user activity. Um, it required whitelisting. This is a really, really important point to highlight for everyone on this call who's, let's say, business owner, maybe you're on the revenue or the operation side. I want you to understand that this tool is something that's going to help enable your business. Meaning it's not going to kick you out if you're on vacation or if you are using a VPN for privacy. We want you working wherever, and we want that to not hinder your business. So I call this out because a lot of people have experienced that annoying aspect at some point where you try to log in while you're on vacation and suddenly you got to reset your password. We're not going to be someone that's impacting your business and causing friction and you actually making money. We think security should be out of sight, out of mind until that critical moment where we're needed. We do things a little bit differently. So behavior based, we're looking at Outlook, OneDrive, all Microsoft domains. I'm going to call out OneDrive and SharePoint because I think a lot of, especially non-technical business owners, underestimate how much their data is actually worth. And especially if that goes into an LLM or if that ends up on the dark web, that can be bad for a variety of reasons. But that is why it's important to monitor those as domains and make sure that we are tracking everything that happens on an incident, especially in your data environment when it comes to data theft. I called out, hey, we're not going to kick people out and shut down their account just because they're traveling. The other big thing that we do is reporting. So a lot of people know us as the forensics people, and that is the perk of having behavior-based detections. The proof is in the pudding with these reports because you can see all that information immediately after an attack, showing exactly what the attacker did.
And they're really impressive to show a report when all is said and done. Say, here's what happened behind the scenes is really, really important to understanding what happened behind the scenes. Those reports are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think being able to see, well, hopefully it stops so fast. We see a lot where zero emails access, zero files access. Occasionally we would see one with some emails were accessed in the seconds or whatever. but you know exactly which ones they are, which is kind of peace of mind. And that's a tough thing to get across, is that you really would have no other way of knowing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's important because we're seeing as part of these toolkits, they have special built-in mechanisms for I'm saying programmatically, putting that in air quotes. What that means is they're using an application instead of manually clicking into each email and copy and pasting all the text. They're running a program to do that. And what that means is they can steal data or exfiltrate data way quicker. So all that to say, the speed on the reaction time really, really matters. We see here what that difference looks like, calling out, and it is super important. Not calling you out, calling out
Yeah,
the
no,
fact
no.
it's so important to see what happened on these. These are two anonymized incidents, not from their environment, but just from our demo instance. But you can see what actually happened on these attacks, and it's super important to know what data they stole and what partners and clients they reached out to. These can be really good way to understand what an attack timeline looks like. So I always start here on the left side, the accessed. Think of left of that blue box. That's the first kind of checkbox over here. This is the location-based signals, kind of first wave of detections that a lot of tools are doing. And typically, let's say on another tool, when they skip that location-based detection, they jump straight into this data theft phase. That's emails accessed. That's also documents accessed. Again, SharePoint, OneDrive integration. But once they have this data, they're stuffing it into the LLM and they're sending out emails. And then down here, these are inbox rules. So this is how they hide their tracks once they've sent out those emails to auto direct emails and basically hide in the account long enough to get to invoice fraud. So the invoice fraud being all the way over here on the right of this red box. So I'm just calling out this. This is what it looks like when you miss these attacks, and it's not good, right? Even if they didn't get invoice fraud, which they didn't on this one, 2 months in they didn't, but they did significant reputational damage and a lot of data theft. Whereas on this attack, and this one looks a lot like the one that we had last week. So the attacker got in. This is our average response time is 4 minutes. Again, that speed is so important when the attackers are using these programmatic toolkits. But we see here they only accessed one email, one document, and we were able to kick them out very quickly. So as it's worth calling out, this is not ideal. We want to catch it before, and that's why Anne's doing awesome work on having an email gateway, having MFA, having all those left of boom controls. For something that gets all the way through that to this phase, this is a big success for us that we're able to catch it so quick, right? We see here Microsoft logging was delayed on this one by 3 minutes. So our actual response time was right around 1 minute once we had those logs from Microsoft. But speed is of the essence on these. We want to avoid any sort of reputational damage or sent emails. And what we tell a lot of folks is if you're seeing those inbox rules, you're probably catching it too late. This is not acceptable. And this was kind of the baseline for a lot of monitoring tools who were, again, looking at those location-based signals. These inbox rules were an obvious detection that they would have as kind of a backstop to catch stuff that made it through. So all that to say, be the second one. Don't be this first one. And again, I'm going back into some of the doom and gloom stuff, but I want you guys to know that there's an easy way to get around some of these new attacker developments that they're helping you to stay on top of the latest attack for. Also calling out the remediation actions that we do on these incidents. So we're sending you exactly what the attacker did in those incident reports. And then we're also helping to pull that email out of harm's way, clean up what the attacker did, make sure there's none of those residual persistence mechanisms is what they're called, but essentially ways that the attacker can plant that seed or have a foothold to go compromise another user or continue out with their original goal.
Yeah.
So we give you plain language summary and very, very simply what happened. We show you the actual phishing email that caused the incident, and then of course all the outcomes.
Easy to read, plain language is awesome.
Yes. So this is the light at the end of the tunnel, guys. And you want to touch on this slide real quick?
Yeah, so for anybody in our community, we try to meet people where they are in terms of security. And we understand small businesses don't have infinite budgets, but we want people to really understand the risks that are out there, and not to scare and gloom and doom, but these are real risks, and that help everybody make informed decisions on the level of risk that's acceptable for your business. And everybody is going to have a different place they're going to land on that. But what we don't want to see is somebody coming to us after something like, hey, invoices got sent out, they've got some horrible situation with a client. We never want them to come back and say, what, couldn't we have done something about this? Like, well, we're telling everybody now that in this day and age, you just need to have more protection in place than you have to have the incident response, because literally somebody could be in your email inbox right now doing stuff and you'd have no way of knowing. And I think about it like having a motion detector on your home security system. You want your doors, your locks, your locked doors, locked windows to keep people out. But if somebody gets in, it's the motion detector that's going to alert you and increase your ability to respond. So again, we just want to continue to have these conversations with folks. Anybody in our community who's not already protected, we're going to offer a free scan of the system, so you can see like where you're at, if there is anything that's in there. And we do advise having continuous monitoring on that. And that's the difference between, we had one a week ago, somebody clicked on something, very intelligent person. These are not just people randomly doing foolish things. Very intelligent, diligent person clicked on something and the attack was stopped in 9 seconds. And imagine if somebody's in your mail for months. And again, every business is going to make a different decision on what their acceptable risk is, but we want folks to know what's possible. So yeah, definitely offering the initial scans, and hope that people will gain a little more awareness of, there are smart and affordable things you can do to empower your business to stay safe.
Absolutely. And we've also seen where it looks back over 6 months, so added it somewhere and found something that had been in there for, I think it was in there a couple of weeks at that point, for somebody. So they had been in there, and without this tool, nobody knew. Um, so the looking back over the 6 months is really a cool feature too, because then it's not just saying from today forward you're protected, but today, looking back 6 months, also checking out to make sure nobody's still in there.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I'm really excited to kick this off with y'all, because we saw again 389% increase in this type of attack last year. This accounts for 9 out of 10 types of attacks. This specific business email compromise problem is getting super out of hand. But the good news for everyone on this call is you can look back 6 months. So we give you the 14 days of free monitoring, but think of this like a 6-month free trial to get that clean bill of health. We want y'all safe. We want to make sure you're safe, but this will give us that information to verify that. And it will also give us other cool information around what users are being targeted in your environment, where are attacks coming from, right? All that can really be helpful to ground this in reality, because I've been in security for a little bit, and on the sales and marketing side, I get this a lot, where security it's something not happening, right? So a lot of this scan is just grounding your security program in reality, to think, hey, where are these coming from? Do I have that clean bill of health? Am I staying on top of where almost all attacks are coming from now? So when we run the scan, we can find some really interesting stuff. Linda called out the attacker staying dormant in the account. That's always worst case scenario. But when we find those, we love kicking them out, because typically they will stay in that data theft stage.
Yeah, they
Right?
think I've been here, nobody's going to find me. they keep doing their thing. And then, you know, you shared the numbers right at the beginning. I think Microsoft said there were over 8.1 billion phishing emails detected just in Q1 of this year. So, and there's no
Wild.
postage on sending an email, so the
Yeah.
criminals can have a field day. But there are, I mean, we want to empower local businesses. There are smart and affordable things that you can do to stay safe, and we'd love to show anybody in our community. You know, just try the trials, see what you learn, and have a conversation. Linda does review meetings with everyone, a minimum of once a year, but we invite folks to do them much more often to just say, hey, is there anything new I need to know about? So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And we
Lincoln, this was
really want
great. Thank
to,
you.
yeah. And you know, we get questions about this. It's just it's a reality that we have to deal with, but there are smart and affordable things local businesses can do to help stay safer online. And we want folks to be aware of that. So the strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, those are still super important. Security awareness training, the more everybody knows about these are all the different wacky things folks can do, um, the safer folks will be online.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I appreciate how you're approaching this as an advisor, right? That you're great to call out the strong passwords, MFA, email gateway. Those are all table stakes in today's threat
Yeah.
landscape.
And
But this,
DMARC reporting to protect your own reputation on outbound so
Mm,
nobody's doing bad stuff to you. But it's all within reach of small business, which is a great thing.
yeah, yeah. Well,
it is.
we're happy to help, and again, very excited for the partnership and being able to roll out this extended protection to your clients and your prospects. So, really excited to see and give out some clean bills of health, and hopefully kick out some attackers as well. But yeah, excited to see what we find.
All right, great. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back
Absolutely.
next month with another workshop. And thank you, Lincoln. So hopefully you'll be home in San Francisco for a little while and then back on the road, I suppose.
Yeah, back in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Excited for the long weekend. You guys got anything fun going on?
The usual
It,
stuff, you know?
yes, yes. So hoping for good weather. But thank you so much, and thanks
Yes.
everybody for joining us.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.